Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into another deep dive on driving traffic.
Let's do it.
We both know you're here because, let's face it, who couldn't use a bit more traffic, right? But it's gotta be the right kind of traffic.
Absolutely. The right traffic is key.
That's what makes this piece we're looking at today so interesting. It's called the Traffic Misconception.
Ooh, I like that. The traffic misconception.
Yeah, it really challenges those magic formula ideas that are always floating around.
It's interesting how we're naturally drawn to those shortcuts, isn't it?
Totally. Like, who wants to do the work, right?
It's like we're hardwired to seek out the path of least resistance.
For sure. And it can be super frustrating to see others seemingly effortlessly attracting tons of traffic while you're putting in the work and not seeing the same results. This article digs into that feeling head on.
It does, and it makes a really important point early on. Success in this realm isn't about stumbling upon some secret hack. It's about understanding the fundamentals and approaching traffic with a clear strategy.
Okay, so let's unpack this misconception a bit. What's the article's take on those how do they do it moments we all have when we see others killing it online?
Sure. It argues that instead of chasing magic tricks, successful marketers focus on building relationships with their audience.
Okay, yeah, I'm hearing that a lot these days. Relationship building.
Right, and a big part of that is consistently delivering value.
Makes sense.
They understand that it's not about endlessly churning out content for the sake of it. It's about creating something that truly resonates with the right people.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about quality over quantity, right? Focusing your energy where it matters most.
100%.
So is this traffic misconception all about simplifying our approach, getting back to basics, maybe?
Absolutely. It dispels the myth that driving traffic is some big mystery accessible only to a select few. The author emphasizes that anyone can learn these principles and apply them to their own efforts.
I'm all about demystifying things. So how does the article break down this approach? What are the key steps to attracting the right traffic?
The author lays out a clear three-step framework. Know your audience, create value, and stay consistent.
Okay, I like it. Simple, right?
Right. These steps might seem straightforward on the surface, but they go much deeper than you might think. It's about moving away from simply chasing clicks and instead positioning yourself as a go-to resource for your target audience.
Being the go-to, I like that. So let's break down each of these steps, starting with knowing your audience. It seems pretty fundamental, but I have a feeling there's more to it than meets the eye. What's the key takeaway here?
So the author uses this brilliant analogy comparing knowing your audience to having a conversation with someone versus shouting into a void.
Okay, that's a powerful image.
It is, and it really highlights the importance of understanding their needs, their pain points, and speaking directly to their interests.
So instead of trying to appeal to everyone, you're focusing on connecting with the people who are most likely to be interested in what you have to offer. That resonates with me. It's so easy to get caught up in trying to cast a wide net, but ultimately it's about making those genuine connections.
Exactly, and that leads us perfectly into the next step, creating value.
Which, in a world saturated with content, feels more important than ever, right? How does the author define creating value in this context?
It's about shifting your mindset from simply seeking clicks to providing genuine help and becoming a trusted resource.
Okay, I like it.
It's about answering your audience's questions, addressing their problems, and offering practical solutions they can actually use.
So it's not just about creating content for content's sake. It's about creating something that truly makes a difference for your audience.
You got it. And the author backs this up with some compelling evidence. For instance, they highlight several case studies of individuals and businesses that have seen significant increases in engagement and return visitors by prioritizing value in their content.
That makes a lot of sense. When you consistently provide value, people are more likely to stick around, engage with your content, and come back for more. And I imagine that trust you're building plays perfectly into the third step, staying consistent.
You're exactly right. This step is all about solidifying that relationship you've built with your audience. It's about showing up consistently, delivering on your promises, and nurturing that trust over time.
And I'm guessing that consistency translates into something pretty important, conversions. Would that be right?
You know it.
Yeah.
The article highlights how consistent, value-driven engagement turns traffic into what the author calls a measurable journey from value to sales. When people trust you, they're far more likely to take action on your recommendations. That could mean subscribing to your newsletter, following you on social media, or ultimately becoming a paying customer.
So instead of chasing quick fixes, it's about playing the long game and focusing on building those genuine relationships. That's how you attract the right kind of traffic that converts.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about building a sustainable online presence that attracts the right people organically.
Now, I know the article delves into some specific traffic sources.
Yeah.
Ready to explore those?
Absolutely. Let's take a look at how these principles play out in the real world. Let's do it. The author starts with the power of search engines. And, they make this really intriguing point about a website that's not even in the top 10 most visited, but it still manages to pull in massive traffic.
Okay, now that's got my attention. How did they explain that?
They emphasize that this particular website has mastered the art of attracting highly targeted traffic through search engines.
Oh, okay.
And the secret, they become a favorite of Google.
Because Google loves relevant, high-quality content, right? Content that actually answers people's questions.
Exactly. The author makes this fascinating point about how content, when done right, becomes a magnet for Google's algorithms.
Oh.
It's like you're speaking Google's language. And in turn, Google rewards you by sending you more of the right kind of traffic.
So content really is king when it comes to attracting traffic from search engines. It's about creating that valuable content that both Google and your audience will love.
Absolutely. And this ties in perfectly with another key point from the article, the power of content marketing. The author actually recommends starting here, building a foundation of high-quality content that establishes you as a go-to resource in your niche.
It's like we were talking about earlier, establishing yourself as that trusted source, right? And it sounds like this approach can lead to some pretty impressive results. The author mentions a real-world example of someone building a profitable online business within a year just by focusing on content creation, right?
They do, and it really highlights how powerful this approach can be. It's not about churning out content for the sake of it, though. It's about strategically crafting content that speaks directly to your target audience's needs and interests.
It's about becoming the answer to their questions before they even ask them.
Exactly. And when you do that consistently, you create this powerful cycle. You attract the right people with your content. They find value in what you offer, and they're more likely to stick around, engage, and tell others about you.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, I know the article also touches on paid traffic platforms, but it sounds a bit more cautious here. It even mentions a specific platform that often gets misunderstood.
Right, and the author isn't saying paid traffic is inherently bad, but they emphasize the importance of approaching it with a clear strategy and a deep understanding of the platform you're using.
Because you can easily waste a lot of money if you're just throwing ads out there without a plan.
Exactly. What's fascinating about this section is how the author breaks down a common misconception about this particular platform. They point out that many people assume it's all about casting a wide net and reaching as many people as possible. But the real magic, they argue, lies in its ability to target very specific demographics and interests.
So even with paid traffic, it's about getting the right message in front of the right people. You can't just rely on sheer numbers.
You've got it. The author stresses that profitability with paid traffic, much like with organic traffic, comes down to understanding your audience, crafting a compelling message, and crucially, knowing how to leverage the platform's targeting capabilities.
It seems like a common thread is emerging here, regardless of the traffic source. It's all about being strategic, understanding your audience, and tailoring your approach accordingly.
That's a great observation, and the author drives this point home by sharing a cautionary tale about someone who poured a significant amount of money into this platform without really understanding how it worked or who they were trying to reach.
I'm guessing that didn't end well.
Not quite. They ended up spending a lot of money with very little to show for it.
That's a stark reminder that it's not enough to just jump into a traffic source, whether it's paid or organic, without a solid strategy in place.
Precisely. It's about being intentional with your efforts and making sure that your approach aligns with your goals and your target audience.
This has been incredibly insightful, but I'm curious, how do we put all of this into practice? The author must share some practical advice for turning all of this knowledge into action, right?
They do, and it's some of the most actionable advice I've come across on this topic.
So we've uncovered some really interesting points about how to approach traffic the right way. It's less about tricks and more about a focused strategy.
Definitely.
What are some specific things, though, that you should be doing to attract that valuable traffic?
Well, the author boils it down to 3 key actions.
Okay, love it when they make it that straightforward.
Right. So, number 1, you absolutely need clarity about your audience.
Yeah, makes sense.
Who are they? What are their pain points? And what are they hoping to achieve?
Right.
And it's about going beyond just basic demographics, right?
Sure.
It's about understanding their motivations and aspirations.
No more shouting into the void. Right. We
Exactly.
talked about that earlier. It's about having a genuine understanding of who you're trying to reach.
Exactly. Once you have that deep understanding, the author's next piece of advice is to focus relentlessly on their needs. What problems can you solve for them? What unique value can you offer that they won't find anywhere else? This is how you position yourself as the solution they've been searching for.
Becoming that go-to expert, that trusted guide they can rely on.
Precisely. And finally, the author encourages a mindset of exploration and experimentation.
Okay, yeah, I like that.
Don't be afraid to test different traffic sources, experiment with different content formats, and analyze what resonates best with your specific audience.
Right.
What works for one person might not work for another, and that's okay. It's about finding your own path.
So there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's about taking these principles and tailoring them to your unique circumstances.
Exactly. The traffic misconception really drives home the point that there's no magic button. Success comes from understanding the underlying principles, putting in the work, and adapting your approach based on what you learn along the way.
You know, as I reflect on everything we've discussed today, there's one big takeaway that sticks with me. Attracting the right traffic isn't about chasing clicks. It's about becoming the answer to your audience's questions.
Yeah, I like that.
It's about providing so much value that they can't help but tell their friends.
That's a fantastic way to sum it up. And ultimately, that's how you build a thriving online presence. It's about building those relationships, fostering trust, and becoming a valuable resource for the people you're trying to reach.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the traffic misconception. We hope you found this exploration as insightful and actionable as we did.
Thanks for listening.
Remember, keep seeking knowledge, keep experimenting, and keep building those connections. Until next time.